Yeah, so welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, we've got a big topic up for you next, haven't we? Will is going to take it from here.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Donald Trump addressed the UN General Assembly this week. There were several notable moments in that barnstorming speech, but perhaps the moment that raised the most eyebrows was this one. Let's have a look.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor. And it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law.
So, for clarity, he is right in that London has a terrible mayor. There is no evidence that Sadiq Khan wants to implement Sharia law, but in Donald Trump's inimitable way, he has revealed an uncomfortable truth through rhetorical hyperbole. And that is the Islamification of Britain. And this is something which more and more people are feeling uncomfortable about, to the extent that in a recent poll that came out this month, 53% of Brits think that Islam is not compatible with Western values. That was a YouGov poll. I would suggest that that number would be considerably higher from the polite crowd that isn't comfortable saying what they think. Make no mistake, there are wonderful Muslims in this country who contribute, who are neighbours, who are friends, who are family members. The problem comes at scale. The brutal reality is that there are 50 countries that have Muslim majorities in the world. 47 of them are not democracies. 40 of them are authoritarian hellholes. When you have Islam at scale, you have the denigration of minority rights. You have a two-tier society where men are obviously treated as superior to women. There is less of a distinction between mosque and state, and the separation between church and state is something that Western liberal democracies cherish. We need to be very honest about this, ladies and gentlemen, because Islam can survive, it can be tolerated in this country to the extent that we still maintain Western liberal values. The obvious point is that at scale, they are not compatible with Islamic doctrine.
Okay, let's start off with Kai.
Yeah, I mean, the Trump speech, talking about Sharia law with uninformed foreigners. I mean, I'm glad that you've taken a bit more of a considered tone here, Will, because actually...
It's unlike me.
It is unlike you, but I think that's part of the problem with these debates, because you rightly say that Britain isn't a Sharia state, that what we have is Sharia law in courts that have no sort of legal function in sort of statute, in the same way that there are other Christian courts and Jewish.
The Islamification of Britain.
But exactly, I know, I'm just, but this is the thing, your hook is, of course, what Donald Trump has said, and as always with these debates, you can say things in a certain way in which it sort of points to what's not said. And what lots of people do take from this, and the debates around this, is you're saying the creep is towards Sharia law. It's the same sort of thrust that what Donald Trump is saying, and it's quite dangerous, and you know that.
Matt Goodman's done very good analysis on this. From memory, somewhere between 20% of the UK is forecast to be Islamic by 2060, somewhere around there. Okay. Does that concern you?
Not particularly, no.
It should.
The vast majority of Muslims that I know are exactly as you say, Will, completely law-abiding British citizens, most of them, and integrate well. Now, I agree. There's been a recent problem with lack of integration.
Disturb you, because the moment you get to one segment of society being of a certain type, the influence that they can then have on the entire society is massive. We're already seeing it, Kai. We're already seeing at the head of our institutions, in our parliament, in our schools, in one of our Christian schools. It's run by somebody.
That's the problem you have.
Yeah,
is Muslim leaders at the top. So, for instance, Sadiq Khan.
All right,
yes, I have a massive problem with.
And I think that's why lots of people on the right have a problem with Sadiq Khan, because he is a Muslim.
I want to hear what Ellie's got to say.
Well, I just think it's more about British values. It doesn't matter about your faith as long as you integrate with the British values that we have, and that is respecting women in the same way that Christians do. No, I don't think that's a fudge, because as you say, there's a spectrum of all of these things. Like all religions, you can be an extreme Catholic or an extreme Muslim.
All religions are not equal. All religions are not equal. It's obvious that Catholicism, Judaism, Christianity are more compatible with this country than Islam is. That is a fact.
I still think it's on a spectrum.
As a journalist, I always need to remember more in less time. And You know what I really hate? Taking notes. It wastes loads of time and you forget stuff. And that's where Claude comes in. This is the Claude Note, a sleek, pro-level AI note-taker that records and creates notes for you. Whether you're listening to a long podcast, stuck in a meeting, or on an important call, Claude captures everything at the tap of a button. Then it gives you a smart, structured summary with all of the key takeaways. It even recognises different speakers by their voice, and you can choose from bullet points, to-do lists, or even mind maps. Your data's safe too, with end-to-end encryption and global privacy compliance. And with Claude's built-in AI, you can search everything you've ever recorded just by asking a question. It's slim, magnetic, under 30 grams, lasts up to 60 days on standby, and over 1 million people are already using it. Hit the link in the description and use code GB10 for £10 off your Claude order. Save hours of time and never miss a detail again. Link in the description below.
But it depends what type of Christianity you decide to follow. Yes, it does. It does matter because a hardline evangelical right-wing Christian sort of white nationalist faction has actually taken over a lot of the United States, for instance, and that's influence. And you think that influence is being felt here in the UK as well, and that is exactly the same thing.
Okay, final
you think
word.
That's comparable to Islamic extremism?
I do.
Final word to Ellie.
That's ridiculous. I don't think you believe that.
I think we're obviously not a Sharia state, and I don't think we should be, and I don't think we will be.
All right. Well, so much more of this lined up for you. This is why it's the biggest show on Saturday nights, isn't it? This is why you always got to tune in. Who's up next?
It is Labour is far sleazier than the Tories ever were. So when Labour was in opposition, Starmer and his team acted like the moral police of politics, the slightest whiff of Tory sleaze, and they were on their high horse with their sanctimonious cries saying that they would never betray the public's trust like that. But a year later, it's clear that they are far sleazier than the Tories ever were. Last Labour conference, it was Lord Ali and Freebiegate and that donation scandal. This time, it's Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, who's embroiled in a donation scandal. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've had a homelessness minister resigning over making people homeless, an anti-corruptions minister resigning over corruption, a transport secretary resigning over fraud, Angela Rayner for tax dodging, Peter Mandelson obviously sacked, and even last week, Starmer's top spinner, Paul Overton, resigning over some sexist texts that he sent. And let's not forget the CV lies. Guido actually revealed that Rachel Reeves lied about her career as an economist. Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, also lied about being a solicitor. I mean, it's almost as if they come up with a new sleaze story each week, so we just forget the last one. And all of this makes Boris and a birthday cake look actually fine, doesn't it? Labour promised to clean up politics, but instead they have made sleaze an art form. And the ultimate scandal of all of this is their hypocrisy.
Absolutely well said. Fantastic stuff. Honestly, couldn't have said it better myself. Well, of course, Morgan McSweeney embroiled in all of this as well. He's now dodged 2 bullets. Let's see if there's any more fire in his way, because all these leaks you see, they don't come from nowhere. There are people playing games. This is why Whitehall will never stop leaking, because there's people trying to take each other out. Renee, I think Ellie's right when she says this government, in the period of time that it's been here, has been more sleazy than at least the last 14 years of Tories, which weren't great either, by the way.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. But the problem with their sleaze is that on that day when he took control of our country, sad day that it was, he stood in Downing Street and said, "We will be the party of the people. We are going to work for you. We will not be sleazy." And the first thing they did was go and get dressed in Lord Ali's suits.
Yes.
What did they say?
Glasses for passes.
Country before party. Is that what was said before quite a lot?
So it is the hypocrisy. It's saying one thing, doing another, and not expecting to be caught or called out on it. And they've learnt very quickly in power that actually people are gunning for them, and the more they gun for them, the more they will find, because you turn over enough rocks and you find enough woodlice.
Well,
I've been trying to think, why have we got to this point where we have these mediocre politicians that seem to be more interested in kind of getting, particular handouts and perks as opposed to doing their job? Obviously, the Conservatives were comparably bad, potentially not quite as bad, but comparably bad. This is just an argument for we need a better class of politician. We need to start making an argument to say pay them more money, start refashioning how we think about university politics to stop getting kind of the nerdy loser kids into university politics and get the actual talented people in, because that is the pathway into senior politics. How do we get better people in? Because ultimately this comes back to the fact that these are mediocrities who are literally scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Okay, Kai, I want to ask you this, because I think the phrase, is it power corrupts, but ultimate power corrupts ultimately, or something along those lines. Something along those lines.
You get the gist.
Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
That's right. And this is my problem. I understand what Will's saying, but I feel like politics always draws a certain type of person. And I think even if you did open it and you paid more money, you're still going to get the party machine working, because it's about ideology. It's about what you say, not who you are. And I think no matter who is in government, you're going to get corruption scandals. I think the key is not to sit on a high horse on a very small hill.
And Will, it's an interesting point that you make, the substantive point of how do we get good people into politics. Well, as Alex says, you're always going to get sort of grifters, people who are after politics for the wrong reasons. I totally agree, and I think you get a cabinet of the talent and people who have made their millions, maybe in business and so on. They'll just be exactly the same.
There's a bigger problem now. And the bigger problem is that we have infiltrated our universities with the woke ideology so hard. These kids have not been exposed to difficult ideas.
I would also say this government has been totally anti-democratic, because a whole load of stuff that they've done, Chagos surrender deal, the digital ID cards, family farm tax, all of this, no one voted for. It was not in their manifesto. And it's actually insulting to the British public.
Do you think, Ellie, that we should have a mechanism where if you don't fulfil the pledges in your manifesto, that you've got to call some sort of vote of no confidence if you don't do it? Because we've got to put pressure on politicians to deliver what they promise.
Binding.
They absolutely should be. But I also think it's a huge social change, and laws like the digital ID card, they should not be able to be enforced upon the public without it being in the manifesto.
Final brief word.
The mechanism is an election, and we need to have shorter periods in between elections.
I disagree on that, but yes. Okay.
I think one way of getting more interesting people with varied lives, varied careers into politics is to stop focusing on these tiny things that shouldn't be scandals at all. Some of these resignations did not need to happen. Some of these so-called scandals, they're thin gruel. Taylor Swift tickets, I mean, come on.
We've got time.